Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Gamecock Central Radio. Emerson Phillips, joined by Gamecock Central columnist Scott Davis for a look at Scott's column that is up on the website right now. We are all from South Carolina is the headline, and we invite you to check out Scott's piece. Scott's a lifelong Gamecock fan, University of South Carolina graduate. He lives in Atlanta, and he brings us a fan's perspective each week in his column here on Gamecock Central. Scott, one of the reasons that I enjoy your column so much is that you and I are about the same age, and I noticed in your column this week you didn't want to give your age up, but I will say that I'm late 40s, and I think you and I are within a couple of years of each other.
Yeah, we are, and I will admit to my age. I just turned 45 years of age a couple of days ago as I was walking the beaches of Surfside down in the Grand Strand area of South Carolina, which was the impetus for this column. I was just walking along and, oddly enough, thinking about how much I loved my home state. And from there, a column ended up coming out of it. So you never know where you're going to get your ideas, but that's what happened. My birthday, just thinking about my home and where I come from and what it means to me.
Yeah, like you, Scott, I'm a native South Carolinian, born and raised here, and I thought it was interesting that you have lived all over the state. You know, I've lived primarily in Columbia and have spent time in various parts of South Carolina, like the ones you mentioned. You talked about living in Charleston. You talked about living in Columbia for 7 years while you were a student at the University of South Carolina and beyond. And then you lived in the PD, worked for a newspaper there in the PD, and you're from Greenville. And you spent time in Beaufort County as well. Summers on the Grand Strand. I think a lot of folks listening today can relate.
Yeah, I mean, I really have spent a lot of time in just about every single nook and cranny of the state of South Carolina, which is why I mentioned in the column when I lived there, if I was out of state or if somebody who didn't know me asked me where I was from, I always just said South Carolina because it's really my life has kind of touched every part of the state. And I grew up in Greenville. Greenville, South Carolina is my hometown. But the state of South Carolina in particular is where I claim to be from. And as I mentioned in the column, I live in Atlanta now. I've lived here for about 4.5 years, and I actually like living here a lot. But when I'm asked, when my wife and I are out somewhere, if somebody asks us where we're from, I always say we live in Atlanta, but I'm from South Carolina.
So, Scott, you're at Surfside Beach, annual tradition for you just last week, and you talked about sunrise walks, like an hour-long walk on the beach, and that's a sign you're getting old.
It really is. When you're out there as the sun comes up, instead of spending your time at the beach, maybe just going to sleep as the sun comes up, when you're actually getting up and walking on the beach, when that's happening, you're old. But that's something the last few summers that I've really come to enjoy. My wife's family vacations down there for a week each August, and we've been going for several years now. And at some point, the last few years, I started finding myself waking up at sunrise just on my own, no alarm clock necessary when you're an old guy like me, and just walking on the beach for as long as I could sustain it. I usually walked a route that would go from pretty much the Surfside Pier to the Garden City Pier, which is probably about 2.5 miles. And when I was doing that, like I said earlier, I just started thinking about how important it is to be from somewhere. And, the Grand Strand area, as I mentioned, is somewhere that we always went every year when I was a kid. And so it just brought back a lot of memories. And one thing that's been fun about this particular column is it seems like a lot of the readers who've read it have had a lot of those same memories about either growing up in South Carolina or moving here and being affected by just what a unique place it is. And, I'm always heartened by comments like that because, I've been writing this column for quite a while now, And I think one of the things that always comes through, or at least I hope it does, is how much I love this state.
Emerson Phillips with Scott Davis here on Gamecock Central Radio. Scott's column this week is up. We are all from South Carolina is the headline. It's a delightful read. Hope you'll check it out. Scott, the crux of your column this week is that Gamecocks are about to take the field again. It's that time of year again. Gamecock football is about to get cranked back up. And as you were walking on the beach this week, you seem to appreciate that a little bit more maybe than the years past, because the Gamecocks, you realize, belong to our state. They're our team. They play for our home.
I think we sometimes forget that. And Emerson, it's unbelievable that as we record this, we are 17 days away from the Gamecocks taking the field. It's always interesting. It seems like when football season ends that you're never going to see it again. And then slowly but surely, you get through that long, long, hot summer, and it's almost time to start it up again. And, I think that as a fan of the team and a graduate of the university, sometimes you don't think of them as the state's team necessarily. You just forget about the fact that this is the team that represents our home state. And I think that's something that we should all be proud of and not forget. And that was part of why, I wrote this column, because I wanted us all to remember that these guys represent us. They represent our home, and that's something that we should all be proud of.
Hey, wanted to pass along, we got a limited time offer. New annual subscribers get a $99 gift card towards Gamecock gear and apparel. Just go to the website, GamecockCentral.com, to get more information, and we hope you'll take advantage of that. Scott, South Carolina, the state has a motto. It's a Latin expression. Translated, it means, while I breathe, I hope, and that really rings true with Gamecock fans in particular.
It's perfect, Emerson. It's perfect for the state of South Carolina, and it's perfect for the fans of the University of South Carolina, because the state is a place that, as we all know, has endured some adversity through the centuries, and we know that. And, the university's athletic teams, no matter how much you love them, there's no doubt about it, they've struggled at times as well. And so at the end of the day, all we are often left with is just hope, just clinging to hope, having hope be there when things look dark. And, for me, the fact that that is the motto of the state of South Carolina is just the perfect summation of what it's like to live there and also to be a fan of the University of South Carolina. It's one of the things that makes me most proud to be a part of that family, is the resilience of the people.
You're writing your column this week. You don't know what the season holds. You don't know if the Gamecocks will go 4-8 or 10-2. But when they take the field on September 1st, you know that you'll feel a surge of hope and pride and comfort. Gamecock fans will hope, Scott, and we'll all do it better because we're from South Carolina.
Of course. And, I mean, it happens every year right around this time. It happened even when I remember back to 1999 when Lou Holtz's first team was coming off an 0-11 season, and we're entering the 2000 season. And I thought right about this time, August of 2000, hey, you know what? I can't believe this, but I have hope for this season. And lo and behold, the Gamecocks came out, shocked the world, and made a little bit of the SEC. They upset the University of Georgia and went on to an Outback Bowl where they beat Ohio State. And so you never know. And fortunately for us, the Gamecocks are not coming off a winless campaign. They won the Outback Bowl last season against Michigan. They finished pretty strongly. And so there's actually reason for strong optimism. But the point is, even if there wasn't, Gamecock fans would still be approaching this 2018 campaign with hope in their hearts, and that's what I love about them.
17 days until kickoff. The Gamecocks open it up at home against Coastal Carolina. We got a noon kick on the 1st of September. Scott, will you be coming from Atlanta for the opener? Talk about your plans for the upcoming season.
I don't know if I'm going to get there for the opener or not. I'm still holding out hope to make it to the next game, which is against the University of Georgia, September 8th. That is going to be a monumental contest. I know Gamecock fans know this, but as someone who lives in Atlanta and listens to Atlanta sports radio on a daily basis, I can tell you, not to look past Coastal Carolina, of course, but the Georgia Bulldogs are worried about that game. They are very, very concerned. I was standing in the line at a deli just a couple of days ago and overheard several Georgia fans talking about how they didn't think they would lose any games this season, but if they were going to lose a game, it might be the one in Columbia, South Carolina. So you got to take care of business against Coastal first. Gamecocks played the Chanticleers a couple of years ago and routed them. Hopefully that happens again. It's going to be a very, very hot day, September 1st. That is a noon kickoff in Columbia, South Carolina. So good luck to everybody who is weathering that, heat explosion. But I'm excited to get this season started. And from listening to the comments from Coach Will Muschamp thus far, I think he is as well.
17 days until kickoff. The first 3 games will be at home for Gamecock football here in 2018. Coastal Carolina on September the 1st at noon. Georgia in a national TV game on CBS, 3:30 on Saturday, September the 8th, and a 7:30 kickoff on September the 15th for Marshall. And then the Gamecocks will hit the road for 2 straight at Vandy and at Kentucky. So, Scott, Gamecock football is on the uptick, year 3 of the Will Muschamp era. And a lot of Gamecock fans feeling real good right now. So we're really excited about the start of 2018 college football.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to talking to you throughout this season. It's always fun, win or lose. And so we will look forward to seeing what happens on September 1st.
All right, Scott Davis will be with us all season long here on Gamecock Central Radio. Scott, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Emerson. Talk to you next time.
All right, that's our friend Scott Davis, and I'm Emerson Phillips, and this is Gamecock Central Radio. Thanks for joining us.